And thank you so much for joining us as you do for each and every episode of Let's Talk Now live on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you want to post your questions, you can do so. Plus, you can call 615-737-9292. Thank you so much for joining us as you do to bring you the issues that affect you not only here in Nashville, Middle Tennessee, but around the state and then around the world. Tell a friend, Let's Talk is now live on YouTube and on Facebook. On this Juneteenth week, on Father's Day, we have a lot going on. And, of course, we want to hear from you because you are the court of public opinion. Now, what is happening? We have guests aboard the program. We have several guests because there's an issue that's just really out of control here. Now, the community oversight now is asking Nashville leaders to do more after allegations of misconduct and harassment in the Metro Nashville Police Department. Man, what is going on? We've invited several aboard the program. We have Cheryl Allen Huff, who is the president of the National Action Network of Middle Tennessee. Ms. Huff, always good to see you. How you been?
I've been doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, yes.
Jill Fitcher, the Community Review Board Executive Director, is also here. Ms. Pritchard, I got that correct, hopefully.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you for being here. We also have Miss Alicia Haddix, who's the chairperson for the Community Review Board. Ms. Haddix, always good to see you.
Good to see you as well, EA.
All right. Tell your pop I said Happy Father's Day to him.
Of course I will.
Because I know a good friend of mine. Also, for the first time here on Let's Talk is the president of the local branch of the NAACP. That is Jonathan Williamson. Good to see you, Mr. Williamson.
Good to see you. Honor and a privilege.
All right. Welcome to Let's Talk.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to find out more about you and your role. But I want to get into this situation that is going on. Again, post your questions and your comments. And also 615-737-9292 if you have any questions you'd like to call us. What is happening is a recent former lieutenant wrote a 61-page complaint, and now there's allegations that two top department leaders quietly worked with state lawmakers to pass a law to eliminate the Community Oversight Board. And now we have the Community Review Board. Let's go to the president, the executive director of the Community Review Board, Ms. Jill Pritchard. What is going on?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. A lot has been going on. Of course, you mentioned that there was a 61-page complaint. That's the first complaint that came out in the police department, and the mayor's office, and Metro Legal decided to take that complaint and use an outside law firm to investigate that complaint. And so right now that is supposed to be happening. We don't know all the parameters of what that investigation will entail. We don't have a lot of information that I think that the public needs to know.
Right.
For instance, what happens once that, the report is complete? Do we get that? Is it a public document? Do we get an opportunity to weigh in on that?
Right.
Because we didn't get a chance to weigh in on who was hired to do it. And so that's the first thing. And then we've had another whistleblower come forward. And so that's something separate that we need to handle as well. And so I'm just, we set up a hotline and heard from officers who said that they were concerned about the possibility of that number. So I'm not going to give that number out today because we need to change it. But I do think that we have a police department that is in a crisis. I think that there are within the police department, you have sworn and unsworn or civilian employees, some who are afraid to say anything because they feel like they're going to catch backlash. And so they've had to endure under these types of working conditions for quite some time now. And it's just all coming forward. And we as a city, as leaders in this city, need to talk about it and find some real solutions.
Absolutely. Police misconduct. And you may remember it was on a referendum. Over 130,000 votes, Ms. Alicia Haddix, the chairperson for the Community Review Board, now, but formerly the Community Oversight Board.
That's right.
The voters voted it in, and now we're hearing, is it shenanigans or misconduct? People going behind the scene to do away with it?
I'm telling you, Ernie, it's one of the worst things that I've heard in a long time,
Right.
especially pertaining to Metro government and the allegations that are put forth in this 61-page complaint. So it's not just about the Tennessee General Assembly creating a law to abolish oversight boards across the state. It has more to do with specific Metro employees of top brass working with the legislators
Wow.
to overturn the will of the people. 135,000 people voted
Yes.
for the Community Oversight Board. And you're going to tell me that these allegations don't mean anything to you, where our mayor is silent to a certain extent. Metro Legal is not allowing us to have outside counsel to take a look at this law to see if we can challenge it.
Right.
You would think they'd be running to see if we could, to get us some counsel to do this.
Absolutely. Now
what
we're
we-
talking about it is misconduct.
It's misconduct, and it's of Metro and government employees. And we shouldn't have to be asking for these things. That's the astonishing part. Like, why would we have to ask for outside counsel to take a look for litigation on some allegations that people within our own Metro government have taken a stance against the Oversight Board, another Metro entity?
Community leaders and residents are now demanding action from Mayor Freddie O'Connell. With us is the president of the National Action Network, Cheryl Allen Huff. You sent an open letter in conjunction with the NAACP. We're going to get to Mr. Williamson in just a moment. Ms. Huff.
Yes. So we did send a letter in, and we're asking for the mayor to come and have a conversation with the community.
Right.
I had a conversation with him myself, and I asked him about the safety plan. Do we have one? How soon will we start working on it to put it in place? And Mayor O'Connor told me that we will not be working on that till probably the end of the year. So what that told me is that my people, our community, what's actually happening is not a concern of his yet, because he's working on the transit and other things. And so we'll put that in a back burner until the end of the year. Unacceptable. No, we need something in place now. We have corruption that's going on in a office that's supposed to be protecting us, and we're not getting protected.
Right.
I just want to say this, Ernie. I had a case with a young man that was shot in the back of the head by a security officer that was then told needed to go and apply to be a part of the police department. Every sign that he had showed that he should not have been a police officer, but he was accepted, and he is a police officer now. But this young man was shot in the back of the head. It was showed that what he said to the assistant DA was a lie. And so they came in, and an attorney had to go in there and overturn what was happening. This is the reason why the Community Oversight Board was needed, because of corruption and stuff like that.
Right.
Who's going to protect us in the streets?
Cheryl Allen Huff, who is the president of the National Action Network, Middle Tennessee. Also joining forces is the local branch of the NAACP. Newly elected or appointed president Jonathan Williamson is here as well. The NAACP joining hands with NAN, local organizations, to get to the bottom of this. We're talking about a former police officer who turned in a report, a complaint, and that's corruption or alleged misconduct. Your thoughts on that, sir?
Currently, our thoughts are grave concerns with the community. It was outreach by some of our leadership that this is an issue once the complaint was first dropped. And ever since then, it's been a situation that we've been trying to get to the bottom of. We've seen reports. We've read the entire 61-page complaint. We've tried to gain access to some of the video footage, haven't received it yet. But it's all damning information, if we can speak on that. It's very hostile. It is very representation of the lifestyle and the conditions and the treatments and the mistreatments and the nepotism and the grave things that MMPD has been doing for decades, and also alliance with the FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, and colluding to outright undermine the people in this city. And
This is a
across the state.
former lieutenant with the Metro Police Department, now retired. What do you think? What do you think? Your thoughts on perhaps what he has to gain, or what is he trying to prove, or why did he even come forward with all this?
Well, I can confirm from sources that he didn't retire necessarily.
Okay.
He quit. Retired is possibly one of the narratives that's being spun. It's being told that he has a media attention, that he has aspirations of being some media mogul, and this is his start to put things out. That's what one side is saying. The other side is saying, well, this is information that is still bad and needs to be reported. So we're trying to say, okay, we hear both sides of it. What's the truth of it? And our mayor's office currently hasn't applied enough pressure, if you will, to get to the bottom of it in a timely fashion. And that's a grave problem. It
Right.
seems like it's being pushed forward, can kick down the street, if you will.
Now there's an open letter to Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell. Ms. Huff.
Yes, it is. And we want him to come to the community again, and let's have a conversation, a real conversation, to see. We want him to go in there and get the chief. The chief should have been the first person that got on the call, got in front of the media, and said, if this is so, we're going to handle it this way. We want to know that everybody in this police department have the right to step up, speak out, and that's what we want. We want the chief. The
Right.
chief, we need you to come out and speak up.
Cheryl Allen Huff, president of NAN, the National Action Network of Middle Tennessee. On the line with us is Christina Laster. She's also a member of NAN, and thank you for taking the time out to join us in on this conversation, Ms. Laster. Your thoughts on this open letter to the mayor, and what do we hope to do once the mayor read it, review it?
Right, and so we hope that we can have the discussion around the accountability that the community sees.
Right.
But also really look at the way that the legislature was able to come in, create a law that worked against the will of the people, right? I mean, you have this situation where there's an initiative that the people voted for. And essentially what the state did was say, we don't care about that. We're going to do what we think is in the best interest of the people instead of listening to the people that voted. And so there's a multi-layer issue here outside of the corruption that stands from the city to the state. There's an issue with the legislator usurping the will of the people for their own interests.
We're talking about misconduct, again, I believe, between city officials, the police department, and state lawmakers, all to do away with the Community Oversite Board. Let me go back to the executive director, Ms. Jill Fitchard. What was happening before the citizens went to the polls and said, this is what we want to do? Was there cases that were not being looked at or overlooked, or policing themselves?
Yeah, police have been policing themselves in this city for a very long time. And it was when Jacquees Clemens was shot and killed that I guess people began, Miss Clemens and others began to say, enough is enough. And then when Daniel Hambrick got shot and killed, it was as if, a Pandora's box was open. We know in the Jacquees Clemens, they were putting out information that was erroneous, it was incorrect, saying that this thing happened or the video didn't work. And it just began what it looked like to me is a structure that had been set in place to continue to tell the citizens of this community and community members that they don't have any power, control, or any input in how these things are happening. And that's where we are. I mean, I think that we're still there today. And what we were doing as a community oversight board, by investigating these independently, those cases independently, it began to reveal things that were happening that shouldn't have been taking place. And it also, I think, amplified and magnified cases that weren't being investigated thoroughly. And so I think that that's why we're here today.
The chairperson for the Community Review Board is Alicia Haddix, and we have a post now, Ms. Haddix, that says, why is all this just now coming out? How long has this been going on? How long have you known there was a former police officer or a retired officer that turned in a report that says there is misconduct between police and state lawmakers?
We found out May 22nd of 2024. So that was a few weeks ago when
Right.
we received this. The complaint was filed with the Office of Professional Accountability within the Metro Nashville Police Department. But the whistleblower felt it necessary for the Community Review Board to have a copy of the complaint because he knew that it would be buried if he didn't send it himself.
Right.
And so we were actually given this complaint. We kept it confidential. We wanted to make sure that we read it thoroughly. And what it said was some very telling issues that wasn't surprising. But when you get to a certain section and they say that the assistant chief and deputy chief work with legislators to overturn 135,000 people's vote, I took it personal because our four parents, our four mothers and forefathers died so we can go to the polls and vote. And so you're telling me my own government, my local government is working against my vote? That's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to us. It's disrespectful to our ancestors. And it takes away our voice and it takes away our vote. And that's unacceptable.
You can post your questions and your comments to Facebook or on Let's Talk Nashville, Let's Talk Live. Also call us at 615-737-9292. Is there misconduct going on? Some heads could roll. Joining us is Mr. Timothy Hughes. He's also a member of NAN, which is the National Action Network of Middle Tennessee. Mr. Hughes, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing exceedingly well. How are you, Ernie?
Doing great, sir. Thank you for joining us. Now, some heads could roll. That means some people could lose their jobs. What do you think?
Yes, this is a very serious issue, Ernie, and I really want to give special appreciation to the president of the Middle Tennessee National Action Network, Ms. Cheryl Huff, for all of her leadership, and also for Jonathan Williamson of the NAACP for pointing out the very important issues that are at play in this situation. We have, for nearly 50 years, it seems, been demanding accountability for law enforcement by community members here in the city of Nashville. Just recently, we had the transition of Reverend James Lawson, who was one of the pioneers around resistance and around civil rights here in the city. He, along with Diane Nash and John Lewis, and even Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was speaking about the need for there to be accountability for law enforcement in our community. So this is a very, very serious issue, and it's been around for a long time. We've seen uprisings in 2020, and even before then, the murders of Jacquees Clemens, Daniel Hambrick, and others who have lost their lives at the hands of law enforcement who were essentially allowed to police themselves. That cannot continue to be the way things are done in the city of Nashville. As we are growing, as we are continuing to build infrastructure and invest in infrastructure, we have to also focus on public safety. So it's very critically important that community members remain involved in this process, remain engaged, and do everything that they can to maintain a measure of accountability for law enforcement in our community, not just for the community members, but for law enforcement as well. There are complaints that are pending from law enforcement officers. If this whistleblower is to be believed, and that the accusations that are alleged in this 61-page document are to be believed as accurate, there is evidence to indicate that even police officers are not being served fairly and effectively in the system as it stands right now. We need the mayor to speak up and demand that this process of investigation into these claims be done in a way that is fair, that is transparent, and that is accountable, so that we can continue to build community trust in Nashville.
Timothy Hughes is a member of NAN, and of course that is the National Action Network of Middle Tennessee, where the president is Cheryl Allen Huff, and of course she's here on our panel this afternoon. Let me go back to Mr. Jonathan Williamson, who is the president of the local branch of the NAACP. Your organization, NAN, have put together an open letter to the mayor to bring some type of attention to this. Are you hoping that the mayor can get some heads to roll?
We're not hoping. At this point, we're demanding it.
All right.
We believe in Brother O'Connell. We came out in force to vote and make sure he became the mayor. At this point, we're demanding accountability. We have some threats, if you will, not physical, but more intangible, that are coming up in November. I think we all know what those are. There is a transit referendum bill that's on the table. It's going to be in jeopardy if we do not see specific action taken in this matter. So,
do you see this as a civil rights violation?
It absolutely is. We are currently reaching out with the Department of Justice and other legal aids regarding this matter. It's up there, as the kids would say. At this point, it's definitely a serious matter that we all have to hold people accountable in our leadership here with it. We're not putting this on Mayor O'Connell as something he did. He's newly elected in this role, just like myself. But he's overseeing it. He is the one behind the force that can change it, or he can allow it to keep going on. And we're not going to stand for that.
Jonathan Williamson is the president of the local branch at the NAACP. Post your questions and your comments to Let's Talk Nashville, or you can post your questions to Facebook, and not only Facebook, but also YouTube. And you can call us 615-737-9292. Back to Miss Jill Pritchard, who's the executive director of the Community Review Board, formerly the Community Oversite Board. Did you feel this storm brewing from the very beginning, Ms. Pritchard?
That's a good question. I always knew that there was some issues. We've, of course, been trying to work through those for the last few years as the Community Oversight Board. But no, when I received this complaint, I was really surprised at how detailed it was and how it spelled out some diabolical plot to overturn oversight and accountability in our city. And then there was a second one that we haven't discussed much, and it's probably 14, 15 pages. I met with that whistleblower, got some more information. And that is something that we are working towards, trying to get that into the hands of the person that's reviewing these for the investigation purposes. I did want to say that because there isn't a whole lot of trust built in with Metro Legal and this information that this whistleblower has brought to my attention, it concerns me for other evidence or information, because like they said, when I met with these people, that they're concerned that anything that they hand over to the police department or to Metro Legal would be buried. It would disappear. That's how bad this situation is. I was also told over the weekend that since they have been the police department has put out all these negative statements about the lieutenant who first came up with the 61 page complaint,
right,
that new whistleblowers are now afraid to come forward. And so
what's going to happen with this whistleblower?
We're going
to need protection?
We've got to work through that. That's why we need the mayor and the legal department to come together to figure out how we protect these people. If you notice, I said a quote at the press conference from Frank Serpico. They did a whole movie on this gentleman who was a detective in the New York Police Department.
I remember.
And Al Pacino played him in that movie. Well, they've, those people, the Lamplighter Project has reached out to us to help try to come up with a plan to protect officers and those who are, within the police department who want to come forward, because it is that serious. This is not something that, you see often where people can just make complaints and nothing happens. There are people who feel like their very lives would be threatened, and their livelihoods.
What protection are we giving some of these whistleblowers? There was a time when we would ask people to call or to send in some information. You can get a cash reward. That I haven't heard any more about that. I don't know if it's still on the table or not. Call 74 crimes. But if we having whistleblowers to blow the whistle on former officers, what's going to happen to these people's protection?
We have to protect them. I mean, there's no question about that.
Right.
We know that MMPD has a culture of retaliation. So if you speak up and speak out, they begin to retaliate against you. They begin to, form stories and against your character and what have you. And so now you have a hostile, toxic work environment that you're stuck in, right? And you can't get out.
Right.
And so that's not fair. It's not right. It's not equitable. If we're talking about public safety that's equitable to everyone in the city, that means to police officers themselves.
Right.
So we don't stop because you have on a blue suit and a badge. You should be able to go to work and feel safe. And if our police officers don't feel safe, then how can we feel safe?
We were sorry, temporarily disconnected from Timothy Hughes of NAND and also Christina Laster of NAND. They were on the phone line with us. You can call back if you like. Let me go to your president, and that is Cheryl Allen Huff of the National Action Network of Middle Tennessee. This letter has been given to the mayor. Has the mayor sat down and said, well, let me meet with you to discuss exactly what you want me to do? Or has the chief of police met with you to say this is exactly what we will do or will not do?
No. Point blank, period. And
that was a quick answer.
Yeah, I mean, that was a quick answer that we have went on deaf ears. But just like Hadak just said, that if the workers don't feel safe, what do you think about the community? Do we feel safe? That's when the chief should have encouraged to let his people know that he have their back. If they feel that something has happened, then speak up and they will be protected. And that's not what is happening. The mayor should be saying, I have your back. You have anything you have to say. Don't feel that you can't say it because you won't be heard. I have your back.
Well, the mayor and the chief work hand in hand because the chief is appointed by the mayor. Am I correct?
And both of them need to be saying the same thing. And they need to reassure the community that everything is going to be okay. We're going to look into it. Where is Metro Legal? Where is Metro Legal?
That's my question.
Now, there's where the crickets are.
Where's Metro Legal?
Where's Metro Legal?
Mr. Williamson.
Where's Metro Legal?
Yeah.
I do believe Metro Legal is the Geppetto of
The
all
puppet?
of this. I believe that they're in the middle of all of this. They're pulling the strings with our Art Commission.
That's right.
Metro Legal is pulling the strings with our Human Rights Commission. They're pulling it arguably with our MMPD, possibly, allegedly, using them as the puppet. They're pulling it with our mayor's office, grabbing him by his tie and pulling off his glasses.
Well, what about these state lawmakers?
And they, unfortunately, they have a lot of them organized as well. I believe Metro Legal is the one we really need, Mr. Wally Dietz himself and the Metro Legal Department to really have this full discussion with. We have a lot of people we're elevating this to, and if we don't reach them ourselves, we know that there are other means to be reached with Metro Legal.
Jonathan Williamson is the president of the local branch of NAACP. Ms. Allen.
So, Ernie, my whole thing is this is a state of emergency. And where is our Black Caucus? Why are they not speaking up? Where is the Tennessee 3? Why are they not speaking up? This is a state of emergency because the people that's sworn to protect us are the ones that's going in against us. We voted to have I will always call it the COB, not the CRB, because that's what we voted for. And you just took our rights away and said it's okay. And it's never okay. We have Black people, men, women, children are dying. And some of them are by the hands of police officers. And the COB was getting too close to finding out what's really happening. And so we have to get rid of them. And all of these people that we've been mentioning today has played a part in dismantling a organization that was going to protect the community and the people and our votes. And now it's gone.
Cheryl Huff is the president of the National Action Network of Middle Tennessee. Post your questions and your comments to YouTube or Facebook. You can also call us 615-737-9292 if you have a question or a comment. Let me go back to Ms. Pitchard. What were you doing? Getting officers fired? Is why everybody's jumping on your organization?
Well, when we had the COB, we had the opportunity to discipline officers.
All right.
There were some that the sanction was that they be fired. Of course, in that process, the police department, the leadership there, they overturned every single decision that we made. And
wow.
So
what about the FOP?
And the FOP wasn't involved in that, but they probably were on the back end. But it just goes to show the pattern and practice of interfering with these investigations.
You said you recommended transfers or dismissal.
Or like suspensions and dismissals.
Right.
And they would overturn it and say, possibly it wasn't enough evidence, whatever it was that Every single investigation and proposed resolution report had that stuff is on our website, by the way.
Right.
And then it would come back and they would say, we have a different decision and outcome.
Can you do that as executive director of the Community Review Board?
No, we don't have that. They
No more recommendations to get rid of somebody.
They wrote all that out of the law.
Wow.
And that's what it means to be intentional. And that is why Chair Haddock has been working so hard to make certain that we get good legal representation that is separate from Metro Legal. If you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. What about that, Ms. Haddock?
Well,
Ebony, we have a couple of calls there.
All right.
Go ahead.
So what the most astonishing part is we received this complaint with just numerous allegations, including the one regarding two high-ranking officials working with legislators to overturn the will of the people. Now, what we didn't get was a call from Metro Legal.
Correct.
We did not get a call from Metro Legal. We did not get a call from the mayor's office. It was silence, radio silence. So that was very telling. So
As it was last year.
As it was last year. And I'm a person that believes I will believe your actions before I believe your words.
That's right.
And so since they didn't call, they didn't do anything. We had to go out, garner our support just to make sure that this complaint was known and it wouldn't be buried. Now, why are we arguing over outside counsel to look at this for litigation with these type of allegations within this complaint? You would think Metro Legal will be clamoring, calling us, ringing the phone off the hook, trying to make sure we have fair, equitable representation because they sued on behalf of the council. What if someone had said 5 council members work with the state legislators to so they could cut the council in half?
So we got outside lawyers looking at this.
We want outside lawyers looking at this, but
Anybody call you?
since our hands have been tied by Metro Legal, by those entities that could have or allegedly worked with the state legislators, then Metro Legal has to approve it. But what we need is for the mayor to have Metro Legal to approve it, because if these allegations are even remotely true, heads should roll, and we should get our powers back.
The National Action Network, the NAACP of the local branch here in Nashville, taking a stand, sending a letter to the mayor, said, look, take a closer look at this. There's some disruption going on. There's some misconduct going on. We're talking about former police officers, current police officers, and state lawmakers. Brother Williamson, NAACP.
Yes, it's pretty much to that level at this point. We don't want to make this seem like we're bashing necessarily. We're looking for a moment for them to explain themselves before we do.
So what do we hope to do? Let me go back to Ms. Haddock. What do we hope to do here? To go from the Community Oversite Board to the Community Review Board back to the Community Oversite Board?
If we have the opportunity to. So why wouldn't we want to take every action, measurable action we could to get the will of the people back in their hands? So if someone takes something from you, wouldn't you want it back? And so that's exactly what we want in the Community Oversight Board. What this complaint did was lay it out. These allegations were laid out very plainly. So could you imagine 61 pages from a retired or resigned lieutenant who wanted to give this information to the Community Review Board? I'm not calling them whistleblowers. I'm calling them employees and former employees of the Metro Nashville Police Department that don't have a voice and feel like they've been silenced because they work in a toxic work environment.
I know the name of the person who wrote the page.
Oh, yes.
We haven't mentioned their name. I guess there is still a whistleblower or...
Oh, yeah. I mean,
protection.
this 61-page report was by former Lieutenant Gary Davidson. He's not been hiding.
Okay. Right.
He's been on.
I didn't know if he was...
But I didn't
bunkered
mention.
down.
I didn't mention the other one because
Yeah.
he's still in it. They're still
That's right.
employees.
And
Right.
that's why we have to make sure that the ones that are still there suffering in silence are protected. And that's the shocker for Chief Drake. We had a lot of faith in him when he first came on. We have it on record that he was going to support the COB and he was going to work with us and do what he could do. But now we're on the other side of that promise. He hasn't met with us. He's stalled out. And so now we have to deal with his employees coming to us because they know we get the job done.
Recently,
Amen.
Metro Nashville Police Department former Lieutenant Garrett Davison, he wrote this 61-page complaint, and now they all include allegations that 2 top department leaders quietly work with state lawmakers to pass a law to eliminate the Community Oversite Board. The COB used to have the power to investigate police misconduct until the new law, but now they're known as the Community Review Board. Your comment, 615-737-9292. Can we put any support behind this former lieutenant, Mr. Williamson?
Define support.
Support mean, do you believe him?
Right now,
Or what is he trying to do, the reason why he came forward?
the idea that it's possibly, I'm trying to analyze support.
Okay.
We'll give support when you give more information.
Have you
Mr.
had any
Davis.
contact with the mayor or the police chief?
I have contact with the Chief Drake.
Are you at liberty to talk about it?
I'm not sure if
Okay.
we should, but I will.
Okay. You met with the police chief.
Yeah. We've had a conversation, and the liberties that we're given, we're basically saying that possibly looking for Chief or retired Lieutenant Davison
Right.
was looking for a way out,
Okay.
looking for advertisement. Lieutenant Davison, if you're hearing this, I need for you to give us some more detail. We need that clarification so we can push this further, because the police, on one hand, your former chief is literally saying you're doing this for fun. You're doing this for games and entertainment. That's what others are saying. If that is so, we need you to rectify that and stand up that with us so we can make this very more public. So with that, Chief Drake and them said things.
Right.
We've heard things. We would like to see that owned up. We would like an MOU. We would like a host of other things.
Ms.
That has to
Pitcher.
be done.
Yeah, and I'm listening to what member Jonathan is saying, and I agree. I think that we need more information. But what I don't want to do is just, I think that no matter what, there is a 61-page complaint that has allegations there, and what we do know for certain is that what the people that were involved in some of those things, of those allegations, although it's being investigated, what we do know for certain is that there was an award given over at the Office of Professional Accountability for
A small laser engraved crystal style award.
given for the work to dismantle the Oversite Board. And what I was told from another employee was that when there's an award given in Metro Government Police Department, in the Metro Police Department, that there is a process, that awards are put out and people can name them and make that nomination. That wasn't done here. It was done in a very sneaky and closed way, and it wasn't for everybody to know about it. So because this Davidson worked at the Office of Professional Accountability and was privy to what was happening there, how can anyone trust the Office of Professional Accountability when they are awarding their own people for dismantling accountability and oversight?
That's
and
the
yet
problem.
they want us and our community to go to them to investigate cases. It doesn't make sense. Make it make sense to me.
It won't
Jill
make
Pritchard
sense.
is the executive director of the Community Review Board. Ms. Huff, president of NAN.
So it won't make sense because there's no sense in it. First of all, so the Oversight Board was the organization that come in to answer questions from the community when things are not being done correctly or something has happened with the police department. Am I correct?
Yeah, or if they have feel some that they weren't being treated right.
So it was too many complaints coming in with the citizen telling what the police was doing to them, what was happening to them. And then, so they had to get rid of that. And so now they can only come in and talk about anything after the OPA has interviewed, did their investigation, and closed the case. Now you all can have it and do whatever because the case is closed. That's unacceptable, first of all. Second of all, we have people that have been shot and killed. And the police department go to their next door neighbor, which is in the police department, and say, I need you to investigate. Oh, well, he said that this is what happened. We believe him. Case is closed. No, that's just like if the outside, somebody coming to my mother and saying, Cheryl did this to me. I need you to investigate. Well, my mother not going to go outside of the house and take your side. They're going to stay inside and protect you and everything. So that's why it was so important, and the reason why we voted to make sure that we had an organization that's going to speak on behalf of the community when things are done wrong in the police department.
The referendum established that board, 134,371 votes.
Ernie,
Miss Ali, I'm sorry, go ahead.
one thing. In 2014, we had a letter. This is when I was working with the NAACP. We had a letter to come into the branch, and it was signed President Hale, and he said he didn't do it. But it had the same thing. It had a whole write-up of what the corruption was inside of the police department. It was it was alleged all kinds of stuff that was happening. That went to closed ears. Now, if what this man is saying is not true, then why the police chief and the mayor haven't spoke up and spoke out and came out? So evidently something about what he's saying, because this man said he had no fight in the game. He just got tired of what was happening in there, and he could no longer. He said he passed up his pension, his livelihood for promotions, and he just let it all go and resign.
And let's not forget about the 37 or 39 women that came forward a couple years ago related to sexual misconduct.
Yes.
That's right.
Wow.
And I was just about to bring that up, because shout out to all the fathers. Happy Father's Day. But I will say,
Happy Father's Day.
Happy
This
Father's Day.
complaint spoke of the mistreatment toward female employees and subordinates.
Yep.
So what that says is the culture that we know about from the PD is not changing. But they say that they want to change it. They say that we need a mixture of police officers so we can get down to community policing. But if we're still mistreating female officers and female employees, physically harming them, and then we just recently saw on the news where the police officer was on the OnlyFans video.
Yes.
And if anything in this report, in this complaint, is true about the mismanagement of investigations, settling disciplinary actions, then we could overlook, meaning they would overlook past behavior of a police officer, and then they come out and police the community and hurt us even more. And they had a pattern of it. But
We have about 3 minutes left in the show. I always say time flies when you're having fun. Yeah, we've been talking about an hour, but that's okay, because we are getting this message out. While you still have the phone, not the phone, but the microphone, Miss Alicia Haddix, chairperson for the Community Review Board, I want to go around the room. Your final thoughts on what you would like the citizens to do at this point.
Yes, I would like the citizens to really take ownership of this issue. This is not about the Community Oversight Board's fight. This is our fight.
Right.
This is about our voting rights. This is about our voice. And we have to have a collective voice saying this is not right and someone has to do something about it. We have a new mayor who we voted in and we trust will do the right thing. So that's what we want to see. And the Community Oversight Board, now Community Review Board, needs outside counsel to protect us, because we cannot have the same legal department that protects the Nashville Police Department protecting the Community Review Board while we're trying to protect the citizens of Nashville and police officers themselves.
All right. Alicia Haddix, who's a chairperson for the Community Review Board. Miss Jill Pitchard, who is the executive director of the Community Review Board as well. Your final thoughts on what the citizens can do to get some more attention to this.
Yeah, I think they need to tune in. They need to come to our meetings. They need to show up. They need to just be involved. Look at our socials. come to our meetings, which are the fourth Monday of every month. But while we're out here choosing how to move, live, work, and play, we need to choose public safety. People want to feel safe in their communities. They want to feel safe when they're moving about. They want to feel safe where they live. They want to feel safe in their workplaces.
Yes.
And they want to feel safe when they go play. And so those are my final words, but I would encourage everyone to pay attention to what's happening and support the Community Review Board. We're here to do the work for the citizens and community members of this city.
Jill Fitcher, the Executive Director of the Community Review Board, formerly the Community Oversite Board. Mr. Jonathan Williamson, President of the local branch of the NAACP, it's been a pleasure. You got an open invitation to come back. Your final thoughts on what the citizens can do, sir?
Citizens can stand with us at this point. The citizens can stand out. Their voices can be heard. We want to open up the doors of communication with all levels of government, metro government, the mayor, the MMPD. We have to open these change, and we have to be a part of the change. We need all the citizens involved.
Be a part of the NAACP.
Absolutely.
615-329-0999.
Perfect. Thank you all.
I'll memorize that number. Right.
Yes.
Speaking of community leaders, our thoughts and prayers to the family of the late Reverend James Lawson, another civil rights leader.
Yes.
All right, final thoughts from Cheryl Allen Huff, President of the National Action Network of Middle Tennessee. What can we do, President Huff?
So I just want all listening ears to meet us on June 18th down at the council office. I need all listening ears to go, each one teach one, bring them all. We want to do town halls. We want to keep this communication going. We want to keep this on top and don't let it get swallowed by silence. We need everyone that has concern about their children, their loved ones. This is important. Please, we need everyone on board.
Thank you so much. And many thanks to Christina Laster. I'm also a member of NAN, and Brother Timothy Hughes, also a member of NAN.
And he's the first vice president of the NAACP.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, the community is joining hands. An open letter to the mayor asking the mayor to do more about these allegations of misconduct and harassment in the Metro Nashville Police Department. So, this conversation is not over. We're just scratching the surface. We just got started.
That's right.
To all the dads, happy Father's Day, and happy Father's Day all month long. Always remember to respect your father and your mother. Love your brother, and teach your sister how to be a lady. Until our next show here on Let's Talk on YouTube and Facebook. It's been our pleasure. We hope it's been yours.
You've been listening to Let's Talk with your host, Ernie Allen. The views and opinions expressed on Let's Talk do not necessarily represent the position of this radio station or management on the subject matter. Let's Talk is a presentation of the News and Public Affairs Department of 92Q. Check out this and previous Let's Talk shows on